Hey guys, welcome back. I know it's been a while since I last uploaded. Unfortunately, I had a really bad sickness. I'm a little bit better now. I don't have as much as a bad cough anymore. However, it came to my attention that a lot of people are making tier lists, and it's just with the stigma of tanks and everything, and I don't understand why many high-rated arena players are putting prop paladins at like C tier or above. It doesn't make sense because uh, from the content that I've had, I've always destroyed prop paladins on my other tanks, and like off the bat, I can already say like based off of the nerfs happening today, arms is pretty much still S tier. Pro is still S tier because it does pretty much the same amount of damage as arms. You're just missing the mortal strike. Prop paladin is F tier. And before I go any further, I'm gonna go for the overall like healing damage and whatnot. So certain classes are gonna be at different tiers depending on what they do. Anyways, moving forward, prop paladin's F tier because the healing is not good. The survivability is dog shit. Yeah, you can spam Word of Glory, but you're just padding your healing. The healing is so bad for paladins right now. It's not good at all. You're more likely to see prop paladins and prop warriors in the arena than any other tank specs, but you can easily just counter prop paladins. It's super easy. Just crowd control Forgotten Queens, dispel or shatter the divine shield and bops, and really once you get rid of the divine shield, you have 30 seconds to kill them, and that's pretty quick considering how bad the healing is for them already in twos and threes, since dampening is already at 31%. Moving on, Guardian is around C tier because the damage is good. Uh, the healing is kind of okay, but the self healing is not that great. If I were to go off self healing, it would be D tier, but I'll leave it where it is because it's alright in damage, not the greatest. Um, Feral is pretty much S tier because of the damage it does. Like all they can do, like all they really have to do is just bleed you and run away, and you're dead. Especially when they're bursting, it's like the bleed damage is so damn good. There's nothing you can do about it unless you can mitigate it somehow with like let's say ignore pain, something like that, like an absorb. Affliction warlocks, I want to say, are still quite scary no matter what class you were to play, unless like you're a warlock yourself or like something that is equivalent, like Shadow Priest or something. Shadow Priest, I want to say, is a mix of A or S, but I'm gonna put it to S tier, just because the damage is is up there. The healing is also pretty good too. Um, Arcane, I want to say, is A tier, just because like if you manage to lock them out of Arcane, they're pretty useless, but their damage is still pretty good. Um, they also have a lot of utility. Same with all the other classes. Like paladins have immunities and whatnot, but their immunities are actually a little bit worse. Guardian druids have a sprint for the entire group, and they have off healing and cyclone and roots. Mages have slows and polys. Warriors have charges, which root and hamstring. Sometimes they have a root if they're prot with thunderclap. Ferals have the same thing as guardian. Warlocks have fear, mortal coil, howling terror. Priests have fear, mind control. Anyways, beast mastery hunters I want to say are B tier. You don't see them often, but their traps are very useful for utility. Sub rogues I want to say are A tier. They're equivalent to arcane mages, but if they're played really well, they're very scary. Um, what else? S tier. Well, actually, red's not S tier damage. I want to say it's around the lines of A tier damage because the utility for ret is pretty much equivalent to prot. They're just missing Forgotten Queen and spell warding. Destruction, I want to say, is B tier. You're not going to see them very often. They don't do as much damage, or rather, enough damage to be as scary as Affliction. Brewmaster, you're never gonna see it in twos. It's useless. Uh, they don't really bring anything to the table. They can stun, yeah. They can paralyze, yeah. But their damage isn't there. They're not gonna get any kills. They're just there to be a nuisance and to off heal. And most times their survivability is bad if they don't know how to play. I could see it being played like in high rating, but when it comes to like let's say like something that can apply dots like a prot warrior or like a druid, so on and so forth, brewmasters are useless. Uh, Blood Death Knights, I want to say, are B tier if you want to. Well, not if you want to, but if you stat them correctly, they're actually kind of scary considering they can just grip you constantly or just do whatever everything that they can in their power to just keep you away from the healer. The only way you're countering a Blood Death Knight is if you can stop the grips and honestly, like just have no magical damage. You just have to get through their anti-magic shell somehow. Which most times, like a lot of classes can do that. Assassination rogues are going to be S tier because let's be real, the Garrett damage and their bleeds are kind of OP right now. We're going to see after this reset if they're still like that. Not Guardian, Balanced Druids, I want to say they should be B tier, but I have not seen them too often in twos and threes, so I'm going to leave them at C tier. Their damage, if I recall, it's not that bad. It's actually kind of like scary. It's like right there with Feral, but considering the representation right now, it's going to be pretty low. Demonology, I want to say, is A tier. You can shut them down pretty easily, but they're still scary if you let them free cast. Because they'll at some point when they have a bunch of pets, you're just gonna die. There's no living. I want to say Disc Priest is also A tier because the damage is about what 10.5k DPS less than Shadow. But if you're taking certain abilities and your talents and stuff, I think you can match Shadow Priest in damage. And the way how disc works is, if I recall, is you put atonement and then you damage to heal, which it makes sense. It's kind of in line with Shadow, but it doesn't have the stopping power that Shadow Priest does. It's very scary for execute phases. When it comes to shamans, I'll put all three shamans up. I want to say all three specs, if they're static correctly, they're actually very scary considering Stormkeeper can one-shot you. I've been a victim to a 300k Stormkeeper into Lightning Bolt combo like all at the same time with all my defensives up as a Prot Warrior. So like I ate 300k per Lightning Bolt, one from each spec, and it sucked considering that they were under geared. So hopefully Blizzard nerfs that. Fire mages I want to say are B tier. Their damage is pretty good. Um, Actually, you know what? No. We're gonna move Fire Mage up. We're gonna bring Arcane down just a little bit. Arcane Mage one-shot shenanigans is why it's B tier. I hate it. It's not fun to play against, and it's like you just counter by interrupting their arcane spells or just pillaring them. Fire Mage, I would say, is more A tier because you can just spam Scorch or like get your crits off and then get your Pyroblasts. And if you get a really hard hitting Pyroblast, it's a little bit more satisfying than doing Arcane. You have more of a way to get out with fire than you do Arcane. Frost, I want to say, is, from what I've been watching, I want to say it's escape. I'll leave it at A tier. It's the same reasons as fire, because like if you get locked out of your fire, you can still cast arcane stuff like polymorph and whatnot. Frost, on the other hand, the only downside is if you get kicked in Frost, you can't ice block, but you can still polymorph. It's still really good to do. Frost Death Knight, I want to put on the same line as Blood Death Knight. It's strong in the right hands, but the representation isn't that there right now. I see a lot of Death Knights running Unholy, which I would find is A tier. However, their hard counter would be Arms Warrior and Prot Warrior, mainly because of the bleeds and the Mortal Strike from the Arms Warrior. And the Prot Warrior is just going to constantly sit on the Death Knight or the healer, and the Death Knight's just going to get cleaved down from the raw damage the Prot Warrior does with deep wounds and rend. Moving on, Fury Warrior is A tier. It's not as good as Arms, considering what I've been seeing with a bunch of other players. Arms can get really nasty crits, and in arenas right now, you want that big chunk of damage or really fast dots, which is why like a lot of these classes that have big chunks of damage are at the top right now. Shadow all like Subtlety Rogue also has a big chunk of damage, but I've seen a lot of players misuse them and they're not playing them as they should be. I see a lot better assassination rogues, which are probably sub rogue mains that are actually like 2100 plus, and I'm seeing like people who have never gone past 1600 play sub and they're just struggling. Moving on, Havoc Demon Hunter, it's still pretty good. I want to put it at B tier for the nerfs it received. They're gonna have to heavily rely off of healers now, but their damage is still competitive. They're pretty good. Actually, you know what? We're gonna put it at A tier with Fury Warrior because they're both equivalent. They're just different flavors of Fury Warrior. Because well, I mean, you have the regular Fury Warrior and then you have the Chaos version. Holy Priest. I'll leave it at D tier. I haven't seen a whole lot of Holy Priests, but we'll see what happens after today's reset. Last I saw, they were not doing so good, but they're doing a little bit better than Prop Paladins right now. Holy Paladins, I want to say they're also doing pretty good. I want to put them at C tier. In terms of damage and healing, they're actually like pretty good. Marksman Hunters, unfortunately, are still S tier for damage, just because they can 100 you with one rapid fire, or they can just one-shot you with aim shot if they have high enough in one stat. Mistweavers, I want to say, are A tier for damage and healing. Whenever they fistweave, their healing is also pretty solid, but the downside is that what I've noticed is that if you're not playing with a tanky enough DPS or a Prot Warrior that can actually live, games are going to be very quick with Fistweavers. You want something to be tanky enough, but also deal a lot of damage. Fistweaving. Outlaw, I haven't seen a whole lot of. I'll put it at C, just because the damage is there. Restoration Druids, S tier, because they're pretty much immortal right now, and whenever they have full dots plus Life Bloom, they make their DPS immortal by doing that. Survival Hunters, I haven't seen a whole lot of. Their damage isn't all that there. I'm gonna put that at C. Still better than actually, you know what? No, I'm putting with Holy Priest. Windwalker Monk, I want to say that it's still A tier, but you're not gonna have that one shot shenanigans. But overall, with its utility and damage, I wanna put it at A, especially with their survivability tuning. And Vengeance. Vengeance, I never seen in twos. Usually they're never in high ratings unless they're carried. Like the only thing that they're good for is like one hunt and that's it. Most times I just see Vengeance Demon Hunters running twos. They're just spamming demonic trample and that's all they do. They're pretty much unkillable unless you manage to out damage their own self healing and their own metamorphosis, but if I can add like an F minus, which I probably could, Vengeance would be F minus. But this is my tier list. I've seen a bunch of other tier lists, and I've seen Snuts, I've seen Bajiras, I've seen Savixes, and it's like I don't necessarily agree. Like, you guys shouldn't be putting all the tanks in F tier just because they're tanks. Like, you have to weigh the pros and cons and utility, and in the end, their damage. And I've played all these classes before. I don't, but unfortunately, this channel is not based around DPS. It's based around tanks. I can tell you right now, like this is probably the most accurate tier list for damage, utility, and healing. So overall, like I hope in the future, other influencers or streamers, other YouTubers, they make a more accurate tier list when it comes to specs for PvP, because it kind of sucks to see everything like tanks be F tier, and it's like I get it, there's a stigma, but be more open-minded, because you can stumble upon a gold mine. It just comes down to the flavor of that class you're playing. And I personally prefer, like, when it comes to warrior, like, I can play arms. I've done it in Legion. It's not that bad. And with the current iteration of Prot Warrior, I pretty much prefer it. However, if there's a more experienced arms warrior, I'd rather play a spec that I know more that does equivalent damage, which is going to be Prot Warrior. I'm probably going to be dropping Prot Paladin for serious PvP. I'll still show it off and talk about it, but I'm probably going to be playing Ret instead, just because it's better and I could probably find more games. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my tier list. If you guys have any objections, or you want to have a healthy debate, comment down below. If you like the videos, subscribe and like, share it around if you can. I do have some videos lined up, but I'm still having to edit them. I have a World PvP video with Prot Warrior. I have a Battleground video, and I have a little bit of arena videos, but right now I'm also just trying to help one of my friends gear up so that we can show off, the strengths of Prot Warrior in the arena, and then the weaknesses. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.